Hooray!
Yes.
Football is back. For how long? Nobody knows.
As I said in the group chat, Tom Brady is going to get COVID from some stripper in Tampa, and by week 3, this is all getting shut down.
I just imagine it's going to be like baseball does, where the Cardinals will lose 20 games and then lose 20 games to COVID, and then all of a sudden it'll just be like, just strike the victory, whatever the winning percentage is, that's what we'll go off.
Sure.
Not everyone needs to play 60 games. Tom Brady's going to play 3 games, go to the strip club. He's 3-0, and he's just like, well, I got a 100% winning percentage.
That sounds like a perfect season to me. I don't know.
Hey guys, we went undefeated to start the season. Why don't we all go to the strip club? So I figured just real quick while we're going into the NFL season here, we would go through some over-unders on the wins and see where we stand.
Sure. I will say initially, I was so excited because I was sure that we weren't going to have an NFL season and I was going to be able to avoid fantasy football this year. But unfortunately, I cannot, and I did not. So, playing fantasy football again. Yay. I got the attention. I got the time for that. I'm not doing a daily podcast 7 days a week, 2 episodes of a review every single week.
Sounds like something you signed up for yourself here.
Roberto, you want to play fantasy football for me?
do you want to be my proxy?
I'm just going to auto draft 7 kickers. They're the safest ones in COVID season. They have no friends on the team. They don't go out.
Social
They're real boring.
distance.
Yeah.
Can wear a mask. Doesn't impact their performance.
They're always standing 6 feet away from other players. It's great.
The punter would be good for this too. Of course, there's no fantasy punters. So.
Oh, that's right. Damn it.
Unfortunately.
They don't score points.
We don't play in a fantasy punter league. What the fuck?
All right, I want an all punters fantasy league. Let's do this.
32 teams. Fucking end it. All right. So, let's start with the AFC North, where we are.
Sure.
Where our team, the Ravens, are, and start there. Cincinnati Bengals. Do you have a feeling on where they go in a 16?
Are we actually going to go through every single team?
Oh, no, I figured we'd select some good ones.
No, I don't even listen. I think that it's clear based on performance last year that the Ravens are going to be at the top of the AFC North. I haven't heard anything in this offseason that has made me think differently about that. I hate the Bengals just out of general principle. Not as much as I hate the Steelers, but they're always been a dirty team. So I'm going to go ahead and say, having known nothing about this at all and done no research, I'm going to call the AFC North at, let's say, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Bengals.
Okay. That's pretty chalk, I think, to how it's looking.
Hey, I've done no research. Look at that.
But the over-under here, so we got Bengals at 5.5.
Okay.
We have the Cleveland Browns. Let me do this alphabetically. It'll be easier that way. 8.5.
Okay, so they would finish further back then, theoretically.
Pittsburgh Steelers 9.5.
Oh, dang. Okay, man.
And then the Ravens at 11.5.
Oh, so wait, yes, because the bigger the odds, the more likely they are to be.
Well, it's just the straight over-under. So they are figuring that to win, the Ravens would have to win 12 or more games.
Yes.
To if you're hitting the under, they would have to win less than 11 games or 11 or less games.
Okay.
So basically, this is Vegas's way of saying they think the Ravens will win 12 or will win 11 and a half-ish games.
Yeah. All right. So I was close there, except for the bang. No. Yeah, Steelers.
Yeah, you had
Browns,
the order
Bengals.
right. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Is there any of those that you think might go for money wise? I think the Ravens over is actually not a bad bet.
But I don't know if it's worthwhile because again, we don't know what's going to happen, and there may be a 6-6 team heading in because COVID just goes wild through the whole league, and somebody ends up losing a lot of games. We might have a lot of teams that are 3 and.
I mean, it's an uncertain gambling landscape for sure, but
for the season especially.
Well, what makes me think that it's a good idea is that to go on the over is because the Ravens are coming back with everyone they had before. Mm-hmm. So training camp and practices and preseason, missing these things doesn't really impact this team as much because it's just about getting back up to full speed.
Yeah, until you lose your quarterback in week 2, and then you lose a running back in week 3, and a wide receiver in week 4, and
if we do that though, then we're probably going to lose anywho. I mean, like that's just like people get injured all the time. Like stars get injured all the time. There's no way of like saying that this is very assumptive of people stay as healthy as humanly possible. Okay. And most specifically, I guess Lamar. Like if Lamar is out, then the 11.5 is probably out too.
Well, if he gets out by an injury, if he just gets out from COVID, then he only misses 2 weeks. And that's the one advantage I think we have is that, like, you lose a running back, that's okay. We got one behind center anyway. Yeah. You lose a wide receiver, all right, well, we still have 4 running backs with our quarterback as well. Like, we can run. We ran.
Well, you still have plenty of wide receivers, too. Like, you got 5 on the roster or so. And you have enough to make Phil.
A quarterback who is learning how to read defenses. I do think he's going to do better. Historically, quarterbacks do way better in their second full season than they did their first because less jitters, reading defenses better. And look what Patrick Mahomes did in his second season, his second full season. I just think it's our time to lose, basically.
Mm-hmm. So let's do it this way real quick. I'm just going to name off some teams at the bottom of the list.
Okay.
And you tell me if any of these make you go, oh, we should really bet some money on this.
Sure, okay.
Jaguars 4.5 over under.
No. They should play all their games in London. That's what they should do.
Washington football team 5 games over under.
So
get the rare opportunity for a push there.
Yeah, I don't know that Washington's going to be as bad, and this is maybe because I listen to some podcasts with people out of Washington, and maybe they're hopeful about their own team, but I'm hearing a lot of like this team is not as bad as everyone's saying they are. Like. They have the pieces. The question is, can they put it together?
They're probably going to be scrappy and win a couple games, but something tells me 5 is like that's a good number for me. That's hard for me to. I mean, like I'm not saying I'm betting on it, but I'm saying like 5 to me sounds right. Well, at the end of this thing, they would be 5-11. That sounds what.
They have a new QB this year too, right? Like,
well, Haskins is the rookie that they drafted last year, and he came in place of Alex Smith. And, it'll be his first full season, so hopefully he can develop there.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he's no Lamar, so.
Alex Smith, though, that's a pretty incredible story. He had a Theismann injury, basically, that his fucking bone was poking out of his leg. And they thought they were going to have to amputate his leg and that he would never walk or play football or anything again.
Yeah.
And he's training. He's at training camp right now. He's working. He probably won't be ready to play right away, but he is hypothetically... They're getting
available.
Ready. Yeah.
Yep. And he's on his feet to help because he's still with Washington, right? Like he's there to help a rookie quarterback. And he has a lot of experience. So.
And I mean, Ron Rivera for the if I were to make an argument for a surprise team and Washington being that team, then I would imagine Ron Rivera would be carrying a lot of that storyline.
Yeah.
Cincinnati we talked about. Carolina, any interest over under 6?
I mean, I think the most flamboyant part of their offense is now in New England. So I don't know that who did they bring in to replace Cam?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, nope, that's probably real accurate. Yeah.
Trying to see if there's anything. So I mean, local thing. Rams 8.5.
I mean, again,
Chargers at 8. Or do either of those entice you?
The Chargers, I think that's an overshot. I think them winning 8 games is.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would put the under on the Chargers.
Yeah,
too. I just
can't. But the Rams, I think it's kind of like Washington.
To be fair, they're the only team that knows what it's like to play in front of no fans. So
that's also true. I mean, maybe that's an advantage. But the Rams, I don't know.
Training for this.
I feel like the Rams could do better than that, but then of course, like you get heartbroken by the Rams too. Like sometimes they don't seem like they know how to play football, but sometimes they do. So
I just feel like the West is such a crapshoot. I wouldn't want with the Niners and the Rams and the Cardinals looking better and Seattle always a threat. Like that seems like it would be a really loaded division where it might be one of those like. An 8-8 team makes it, but it's only because everyone's so competitive. Yeah, like there's nobody who runs away with it.
I have concerns about Seattle, obviously for the opposite reason. Like I feel like they really thrive in an environment that is fan driven, and I guess we're gonna find out how much of that is like
how much home field advantage really matters.
The hype of the crowd, because like listen, having only played amateur and high school sports. There is some level of like when you hear your home crowd getting you hyped.
Yeah.
But you're also 15. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, how much is that worthwhile?
Well,
versus...
I mean, I think we can make a reasonable argument that in the NBA, with the playoffs there, that it's making a pretty big difference. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, Miami, while a good team, is up 3-0 on Milwaukee right now. And Milwaukee is the clear favorite going in. But, neutral site, no fans. Like, there's no real home field advantage to either team when they're the home team. So
I was going to say that Indy, Seattle are going to have the problems of like places where you could hear a pin drop when the offense is on the field and when the defense is on the field. It's just
a jet turbine,
roaringly loud, and not having that and being like, it always sucks to go into Seattle because it's cold and wet and you can't hear anything. Well, not anymore.
I do think that there is going to be a part of this that, I mean, like, one of the great things about playing at home, though, is you sleep in your own bed.
That's also
you
true,
get comfortable. You have your own locker room. Like,
and they don't have that in the
traveling
NBA.
to, yeah. So without a bubble system, it might be a little bit different. I think at the end of the MLB season and the football season, if it sort of goes no fans throughout, then we would have some base data to be able to look at for the future.
Well, I was going to say, I especially maybe...
It might change Vegas's thought on the 3 points to the home team.
Yeah.
Like, because usually if it's an even matchup and it would be a pick 'em in a neutral site, it's +3 to or -3 to the home team.
Yeah.
So
I feel like, especially in a place like Indianapolis, where even Andrew Luck said there was something about playing in that stadium because you really felt like it was a practice field while you're on offense, and then it's so overwhelming when you're on defense. I don't know. I also feel like there are going to be people. If I was an NFL player, I wouldn't go home. I would stay in a hotel during the season because I don't want to risk taking something home to my family that I got exposed to. So then you lose the home field advantage because, you're at home, but you're also living in a hotel in Seattle. Yeah. So it's all road life, basically.
So real quick, I'd like to run through just the top 10 here.
Sure, go ahead.
Just to finish up, and let me know if any of these numbers make you go, oh, I'm hitting the over high on these.
I feel like Tampa Bay is going to be on this list. Go ahead.
Prepare yourself for a shock.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Steelers, 9.5. Philadelphia Eagles, 9.5. Indianapolis Colts, 9.5. Seattle Seahawks, 9.5. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 10. Dallas Cowboys, 10.5. 49 or Saints, 10.5. 49ers, 10.5. And then the Ravens and the Chiefs each with 11.5.
I mean, I don't think I'm taking the over on either the problem with taking the over on the Chiefs or the Ravens is like I fully believe both those teams could win 12, 13 games.
Yeah.
But there's so much uncertainty with going into the season.
I think
it's rough.
I think if you're a gambler, and we're talking about this obviously because sports gambling is much more legal now than it was the last time we did this. Did a season preview. I just feel like to me, if I have money that I'm going to Vegas to bet over-unders with, I am not touching anywhere in the middle because nobody in the middle here makes me think, other than the Cardinals at 7.5, I think that there is a potential that they could blow that out.
No, I take the under on Tampa Bay. I don't think they're going to win 10.
I mean, Houston at 7.5, I think that could be good. Las Vegas at 7.5, I think
8-8. That means you don't finish 8-8.
Right.
And it's rough. I don't know.
I mean, I just think that like on a flyer, some of those would be good money values. But anywhere up top, like I just don't. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. I would say Colts under because Phillip Rivers is there now as a starter, and he's older, and he was already intercepted more than anybody other than Jameis last year.
But
so
there's always the question: was it Phillip Rivers or was it the being in the Charger organization,
being in San Diego / Los Angeles?
Yeah, just like. I would think that that Tampa Bay is not going to win 10, but maybe it really is Tom Brady, and he's going to go to Tampa Bay and turn that team around.
Tampa is loaded now. Obviously, they had Evans and Godwin at wide receiver. They get Gronk, from the trade. So you have one of the best tight ends in the history of the NFL back. How good he is, but even behind him, you have Brate and I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head now. But two very capable starting tight ends are behind Gronk on that depth chart. Brady at quarterback, obviously, and then the Jags just released Leonard Fournette, so he is now signed with the Bucs.
Yep.
So you have Leonard Fournette as well, a 4th overall pick just a couple years ago.
The big question for the season is...
And a good offensive line, a good defense, not anyone...
Defending Jameis is nonsense for the last few years. They're probably really good. The question for this season, question number 1 is, what is COVID going to do? Question number 2 is, was it the coach or was it the player?
Yeah.
Was Tom successful because he had Belichick in New England, or is he really that good? Was Cam successful? And will he be more or less successful with Belichick in New England than he was in Carolina? Was Jameis? He's playing somewhere too, right?
We literally have a half-point difference between, or half-win difference between New England and Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So Vegas is roughly thinking that somewhere in the area of 9 wins is where both these teams are going to end up. If I told you could bet on one to beat the other, like who would have a better record at the end of the season, Tampa Bay or New England?
Oh, just a straight up one versus the other. I have to go. I'm gonna have to go with New England because I think Belichick makes the changes during the season to make that happen, no matter what it takes.
I think Tampa's going to be very good. I think they're going to be competitive in the South there, but I can't even imagine betting against Belichick.
Absolutely not. I wouldn't bet against him to not win the Super Bowl this year.
Well, and as much as people love Tom Brady, and well deserved, he has many championships and accolades and stuff like that. I still feel like best case scenario, Cam Newton is a better quarterback than Tom Brady is at this point.
Younger.
We're talking about 10 years age difference or something like that at the very front. And even though Cam has had injuries, I still feel like there's enough. He's an MVP. He was good enough to be NFL MVP. So that means something.
Well, I think the other problem too is you can have the best line in the NFL. You can have all of the weapons out there on the wings ready to go. But Tom Brady is 44 now.
42, I thought.
42. And he's a 42-year-old man, and you cannot protect him 100% of the time. And you get a flyer, a safety blitz that just catches the back of his leg, while he's running away. Does Tampa Bay win with all those weapons without Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Now,
43 on Tom Brady.
43. I fully believe that no matter what happens in New England, Belichick finds a way to win. He took a 6th-round draft pick. When his MVP quarterback went down, he somehow roused his 6th-round draft pick to become Tom Brady. Because at that point, he was nothing. He was a scrawny kid who got picked late in the draft.
Cam is 31, by the way.
So 8-year difference.
Yeah.
But enough, I think, though, that...
12-year difference.
12-year. Oh, that's right. More than 12-year. I think if Tom goes down in Tampa Bay, that's the end of Tampa Bay's chances. If Cam goes down in New England, Belichick finds a way to win around it. Because I just don't think the coaching in Tampa Bay... Jameis is not a bad quarterback.
Well, it's Bruce Arians. So, Bruce has had a lot of success being able to find a way to win with less than desirable talent before. Cam Newton, who everyone makes fun of him for throwing 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in the same season last year.
Yeah.
Quite the feat. But people also forget that he, I think, led in passing yardage, too. He was out of this world throwing it down the field. And if you
didn't have a great line either, by the way. Some of those interceptions were got to make something happen.
I will argue, other than when he had Randy Moss just by himself.
Yeah,
he has never had a wide receiver anywhere close to Mike Evans or Godwin. Yeah,
a core of.
If you're talking about this fantasy wise, Evans and Godwin are top 10 wide receivers in the league, and he's got 2 of them. You could argue that Moss, maybe at his peak, still in New England, perhaps, was better than either one of these 2 guys, but
they got 2.
They got 2 of them, which is an incredible feat. And Tom was throwing to moving men for the last couple of years. Like obviously there's good wide receivers there, but there's also, it seemed like every once in a while we'd watch a game where it's just like, hey, Tom Stevens is out there at wide receiver, and you're just like, who the fuck is this guy?
He was moving boxes a week ago, but they needed somebody.
He worked at Patriots video but again, staff, and then got moved up to wide receiver.
Does Tom make them look like superstars, or does the Patriot way, that is essentially Belichick, make them superstars?
I bet you that I bet you the Patriots do better than the Bucks this year.
I think that's the only way you can go. Don't ever bet against Belichick.
I mean,
unless it's the Ravens versus Patriots. And
Brady's good. I think Brady will lead this team to a winning record. But if gun to my head, I have to make a choice between the two. I still think New England's going to be better than Tampa this year.
I go back to it's the second question. Bruce Arians now, you're right. He's had marginal success with not great players.
Yeah.
Now that's not a problem. You have everything that you need to win. If they don't win, I'm looking at Bruce Arians and saying, maybe it's you. Maybe Jameis wasn't that bad, and you just don't know how to coach him. Because you got Tom Brady, possibly the greatest quarterback in the history of football, and you can't find a way to win with him. And then if you go to New England, you're like, Cam hit 30-30 last year, but Belichick's putting him in the playoffs?
Well, so, putting in a Ravens perspective here, there was a lot of people when it was Joe Flacco and Tyrod Taylor together saying that Tyrod should start.
Yeah.
There was a big push for Tyrod.
Stop listening to the fan, Corey. Why are you listening to one of us said it?
But they're not wrong. The people who wanted Tyrod were not wrong.
Yeah.
Because Tyrod is a talented enough quarterback that he's started ever since.
Yep.
He's been a good, dependable starter. He is starting again with the Chargers right now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh.
I mean, he will lose that job to Justin Herbert eventually, whenever Herbert is ready to take it from him. But he's still a starting quarterback in the league right now.
Yep.
So how, what we were really arguing at that point, because both Flacco and Tyrod are of similar caliber that they can both start, was what made more sense for the situation we were in. And I think Joe, with the big arm and the fast wide receivers at the time, was the better play than Tyrod.
Yeah, just stretch a field. Yeah. And if you have to threaten a 40-yard touchdown, then
But I mean, Harbaugh completely changed everything once Lamar was the quarterback.
Yeah.
Once he was the starter, everything changed. And I have to imagine that maybe there would have been some sort of world where everything changed if it was Tyrod too. If Flacco was just peace, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. And Tyrod became the starter, then I imagine the offense would have changed to suit Tyrod. So I wonder, does Belichick come up with some sort of offense that completely fixes Newton or changes Newton, or is it more of a Bruce figures out how to work Tom Brady into the system? How do you get the best of what you got in New England in Tampa so Tom can duplicate it?
Honestly, if I'm Bruce Arians, I'm like, hey, Tom, you want to design an offense for me? And just let him do it. Because I do feel like the opposite is...
Bruce walks in with this little hat, into Tom Brady's office, just going we're thinking about signing Leonard Fournette. Ooh.
By the way,
a fourth overall pick.
If you don't think Tom Brady had a say about the signing, you are out of your mind. But I do believe that Belichick will probably go meet with Cam and watch video of Cam and be like, all right, let me go design an offense that's going to work with this guy.
There's been multiple reports out of New England. Take it for what it's worth. That Belichick has been giddy at what he's been seeing out of Cam, which is a word that I don't necessarily associate with Belichick.
Yes.
Giddy is not something I don't think I've ever seen him.
I don't think I want to actually see.
He's won Super Bowls and I've seen him frown. I don't know if I'm prepared for giddy. But I guess general logic here, feel free to object differently if you feel so. The only two things I'm really feeling comfortable is hitting the over on the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Yeah.
I think plus, 11.5 is good. I feel confident that one of these two teams, both of these teams could probably be 15-1, 14-2, 13-3 without too much trouble. So I feel like you're even buying yourself in a weird loss if you think they're going to be 13-3.
Yeah.
But maybe they get fucked in one game and a
Again,
ref blows it. And
question number 1 for the season, because Lamar goes down for 2 weeks with COVID, and now you're 14-2 no matter what. You're not going to win those two likely. So,
I mean,
Patrick goes down for 2, you're probably going to lose those two as well.
See, I feel like those two teams have enough talent around though that they could figure out. If we lost Lamar for 2 weeks, just hypothetically. Yeah. And RG3 had to come in and run the show.
I forgot RG3 was our backup.
I feel like he's good enough to keep the the gears moving, you know?
By the
It's
way,
a lot of running
I love
game
how
and
we're
it's a lot
talking
of
about a former #1 draft pick,
Heisman Trophy winner.
Heisman Trophy winner. I feel like he's good enough to run this offense.
He might be able to do it.
By the way, in the same style of the current quarterback, it's not like switching up styles. He's like, I'm going to run the run offense.
Like you're bringing Vinny Testaverde in there. All right. All the design runs are out the window. But yeah, there's not really like. I think if anything, it's just this weird season that doesn't make me want to bet or like put a flyer on anybody unless I'm like really feeling confident about it. Arizona, like I picked out of here like at 7.5. That feels like I feel like at the end of this, there's a chance they might win 12 or 13 games.
Maybe
that would be really above what they're expected to do this year. But I could see a breakout happening. Kyler does the Lamar Patrick Mahomes thing where in his second full year he unlocks himself.
By the way, guess who I'm not taking in fantasy this year because you fucking disappointed me last year, Kyler. He was my. You
know what the problem is though, that you're gonna say, no, I'm not drafting Kyler.
And he's gonna do really great this year. Yes, I know. Yeah.
Much like Mahomes and Lamar before, he'll take that second season to win his MVP. And
I'm taking. There is only one person you take in the first round. Hollywood has got to go in the first round.
Don't steal Rachel's strategy. Somebody might take it.
Oh god.
But really, going through the list, I don't see a whole lot of like juicy lines here that are making me.
Here's a question for you. We've talked about a lot of AFC teams.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the AFC Championship
we've been talking about the Tampa Bay Bucs here a little bit.
Who else is like the Cardinals?
Yeah.
Who else is competitive?
I mean, the favorites are the 49ers, the Saints, the Cowboys, the Bucs, the Seahawks.
The same names that we hear every single year.
Yeah, I mean, like, but the problem is that I sort of feel like the NFC is just like there's a lot of really good teams, but not a truly exceptional team.
Yeah.
I think you could say that, if you're breaking off there, the Chiefs and the Ravens seem to be at the very top of the teams in the league.
Yeah.
At least prospectively. They play the game, we'll see what happens. But going in, it looks like those are the two far and away teams up top.
I got a proposal for you based on that, though. Before you continue.
Yeah.
Proposal. Seattle comes to the AFC, Chiefs go to the NFC, and we'll let that run for a little while. So then at least maybe the Chiefs and Ravens, the two best teams,
can play each other in the Super Bowl.
And by the way, likely because we have two very young quarterbacks leading two very good young teams, that the next 15 years would just be Ravens Chiefs quarterbacks or Ravens Chiefs Super Bowls. But it's almost disappointing because I'm looking at this again being like, oh, well, so it's going to be Chiefs Ravens in AFC Championship and then winner of that versus somebody.
It was always a kick in the pants for a while where you would have the Colts and the Patriots face off in the AFC Championship with the Brady Manning matchup.
Yeah.
And then Brady would win and then go on to get defeated by the younger, worst Manning in the Super Bowl. But
you play the good Manning in the championship game, and then you get beat by the other one.
Get beat by the one that nobody wanted. Except for Giants fans.
You took Kim out to dinner, but Chloe's the one you hooked up with? Really? Oh, God. All right.
Rude.
I just revealed that I know way too much about the Kardashians.
I think we've covered this nicely though. People who are looking for their fantasy or their betting advice have gotten.
Yeah. And by the way, trust none of this advice. As I will repeat, as I said at the beginning, I've done no research whatsoever. I only know the things that like Corey sends me tweets about. I'm like, oh, Tom's in Tampa now. That's cool. I hadn't seen that. That's good to know.